Hi everyone. So today we're going to be presenting our midterm presentation, and the company that we chose is Toyota. So a little overview of what we're going to be talking about today. The first thing is company background. Second thing is the grid market penetration. Number three, matrix opportunity risk, and then the target country profile. So a little company background. Toyota Motor Corporation was founded by the Toyota family, and the word Toyota with a D uses 10 Japanese strokes while to write, while Toyota with a T only uses 8. 8 is considered lucky number in Japanese culture. For these reasons, Toyota was chosen as the company name. Kiichiro Toyota was the founder of Toyota Motor Corporation and the automotive-centered Toyota Group. Kiichiro used the spirit of invention and the business base inherited from his father Sakichi Toyota to expand the automotive business and build foundation of today's Toyota Group. So Toyota Motor Corporation Limited was established on August 28, 1937 in Japan. But this was the registration date. It was decided that the company's founding would be designated as November 3, 1938, and it was the effective date of its start as a company. The Komoro plant, now called the Honsha plant, was Toyota's first car manufacturing facility, completed in 1938. It marked the official start of Toyota's car production, located in Toyota City, Japan. The plant played a key role in the company's early success and growth. Today, it continues to operate as a major production site for Toyota's vehicles. So this is a little bit of a timeline of Toyota's company. So in 1937, Toyota Motor Corporation is founded by Kiichiro Toyota in Japan. Just a year later, 1938, Toyota opened its first plant, the Komoro plant, which is now known as the Honsha plant. This was an important step in ramping up production and setting stage for the company's future. 1966, Toyota then introduced Corolla, which became the world's best-selling car. This model represents Toyota's commitment to reliability, affordability, and innovation, which won people's hearts and drivers worldwide. In 2008, Toyota reached a major milestone, becoming the world's largest automaker for the first time. This was a huge achievement, proving that Toyota's dedication to quality and efficiency had made it a dominant force in the global automotive market. Most recently in 2023, Toyota then revealed its next generation solid-state battery technology. This breakthrough is a game changer for electric vehicles, offering greater range and faster charging times, positioning Toyota at the forefront of the shift towards sustainable transportation. Product timeline. Let's start from 1936. Toyota launched the very first passenger car, Toyota AA. 1957, Toyota Crown. 1966, Toyota Corolla. 1984, Toyota 4Runner. 1989, Lexus LS 400. This actually was the car of Toyota's luxury brand. 1997, Toyota Prius. 2000, Toyota Highlander. 2008, Toyota Land Cruiser. 2015, Toyota Mirai, and the 2023 Toyota BZ4X, which is completely electric. Toyota's mission statement is to attract and attain customers with high-valued products and services and most satisfying ownership experience in America. This mission focuses on three things. First, attracting customers by offering products that deliver high value, whether through innovation, quality, reliability. Toyota aims to meet customer needs at every level. Second is to emphasize high-valued products and services, meaning that Toyota doesn't just sell cars, they provide comprehensive services as well, from purchasing maintenance to ensuring great customer service. Finally, Toyota is committed to the most satisfying ownership experience. This means that after a customer buys Toyota, they can count on reliability, safety, and the excellent service that they provide.
So, moving on to our next section, we have the simplified market penetration grid. Now, the two countries we decided to go over on this were Russia and China. I was tasked with going over Russia, which did end up being our target country. Now I'll briefly go over each of the aspects, but go into more detail on the ones that ended up being the deciding factors for why we chose this country, aka why it was so difficult to try and penetrate into this country. Starting off with our acceptable and unacceptable variables, we have allow 100% foreign ownership. This is acceptable in Russia. Russia does allow for 100% foreign ownership. The second variable in a current war was unacceptable, however, though, as they are currently in a war with Ukraine. But to keep things interesting, we decided to go forward with it anyway, as the rest of the aspects do make this the most difficult of the two countries to enter. Now, for opportunity, we'll start off with sales potential. There's a lot of sales potential in Russia for automobile manufacturers, as a lot of them did pull out for the war, means that there's a lot of market share to be had. They also do offer quite a bit of government incentives for foreign manufacturers to incentivize them to come and manufacture there. When it comes to infrastructure, it's fairly standard, pretty good. Uh, Moving on to tax rate, it's about average taxes. Nothing really to write home about. Moving on to labor conditions, I would say they're about slightly above average. Nothing too special there. Now, where Russia really falls off in the opportunity section for Toyota would be the ease of external integration. Now, Toyota used to be operating in Russia before the war. As soon as the war hit, Toyota and quite a few other companies decided to pull out of Russia on not so great terms. Now, if we were going to try and reintegrate back into Russia, likelihood that it would be an unfavorable deal on our part due to how we pulled out of Russia is fairly high, making it a 0 out of 4 when it comes to the opportunity of ease of integration. Final total for opportunity ended up being an 11 out of 19. Moving on to the risk portion, the foreign exchange rate is fairly risky. The Russian ruble has had some instability in recent years. As far as competitiveness, though, it's not too competitive, luckily. So there's a lot of local manufacturers. So if a foreign manufacturer that's already been established comes in, they could make a pretty good claim on the market. Now, where Russia really falls off in terms of risk is the political economy and natural disasters. So we already talked about for political economy that they are in a war, but other things affecting the political economy negatively. First, probably the biggest being its interactions with the U.S. The U.S. has placed many sanctions in recent years on Russia, which has disrupted quite a bit of the supply chain in Russia and increased costs for things there. Also, Russia has been having relatively negative interactions with other countries, specifically in the EU, as it rejected to be a part of the EU's brand Green New Deal. Moving on to natural disasters, Russia has been plagued with a lot of earthquakes and floods. The earthquakes have been known to disrupt and destroy a lot of the roadways, whereas the floods have been catastrophic and plentiful, which have damaged a lot of the infrastructure. Now, the floods seem to be caused primarily by an increased amount of snow melt in the spring, as well as increased amounts of rainfall. And this number seems to be rising over the years and may be correlated to global warming. This left us with a risk total for Russia of 11 out of 13, which is very high.
My name is Thuy. I'm going to talk about the target country, China. China is accepted 100% foreign ownership and in a current war also. I rate the country China 3 out of 5 for the sales potential opportunity. It's because Toyota is currently facing challenges in the Chinese market, primarily due to the rapid shifts toward electric vehicles. Despite being the third largest global automaker in China, Toyota sales have been declining. In 2023, Toyota's deliveries in China fell by 1.7%. The competition from local electric vehicles manufacturers like BYD and international players like Tesla, making it difficult for traditional automakers to maintain their market share. Toyota has been trying to adapt by introducing electric models such as bZ3 and bZ4X, but these efforts have faced setbacks, including the recalls and production cuts. I rate the country 1 out of 3 for the possibility of governmental incentives opportunity. It's because China has implemented a range of governmental incentives to support the electric vehicles industry. Toyota can potentially benefit from the tax exemptions. Electric vehicles are often exempt from the 10% purchase tax that applies to the traditional internal combustion engine vehicles. In many Chinese cities, obtaining a license plate for an electric vehicles is easier and cheaper compared to the traditional vehicles. The government has invested heavily in electric vehicles infrastructures, such as charging stations, which is essential for the widespread adoption of electric vehicles. The next one, I rate the country China 2 out of 2 for the infrastructure. It's because Toyota has been actively developing its infrastructure in China to support the growth and the competitive in the market. Toyota has completed new facilities in China, including the vehicle test course and the technology testing facilities. These are part of the energy saving and the new energy vehicle technical center. It aims to popularize the environmental technologies in China. Toyota is considering establishing a fully owned Lexus electrified vehicle plant in Shanghai. This project is still under negotiation, with Toyota seeking tax breaks policy support from the local authorities. The next one, I rate the country 3 out of 4 for the ease of external integrations. It's because Toyota has been working on several strategies to ease the external integration in China, focusing on cross-cultural communication, local partnerships, and adapting to the local market conditions. Toyota invests heavily in training the employees in cross-cultural communication. This includes the customer program to the specific cultural contexts of different regions, including China. These programs help the employees understand, respect the local customs, norms, and the business practices. Toyota adopts a localizational strategy by incorporating local languages in its communications, the product manuals, marketing materials, and digital platforms. This help building a stronger connection with the local consumers and the stakeholder. The next one, I rate China 1 out of 2 for the tax rate. Is because Toyota effective tax rate in China can vary based on several factors, including the local tax regulations, incentives, and the company's financial performance. The corporate tax rate in China is 25%. However, Toyota, like other multinational companies, they benefit from the various tax incentives and deductions offered by the Chinese government to encourage the investment in specific sectors, such as electric vehicles and research and development. For instance, the companies involved in the high-tech industries or those that make significant investment in R&D may qualify for a reduced tax rate of 15%. The last one is the labor conditions. I rate the country 0 out of 3. It's because the labor conditions in China, particularly in the automotive industry, it has been a topic of concern. Toyota, along with the other major automakers, it has been implicated in reports of forced labor in Xinjiang region. There have been instances of labor disputes and strike at Toyota plants in China. For example, a strike at a parts supplier in Guangdong province led to the temporary halt in production at a Toyota plant. These disputes often arise from issues related to the wages, working conditions, and worker rights. For the second part is the risk part. I rate the country 3 out of 4 for the political economy. It's because Toyota presence in China is influenced by various political and economic factors. The relationship between Japan and China has historically been strained, which has impacted Japanese companies like Toyota. Political tensions can affect consumer sentiment and regulatory environments. China is the world's largest automobile market, and Toyota has to adapt the strategies to compete effectively. This includes developing sales and logistic network and focusing on hybrid and fuel-efficient vehicles to meet the local market demand. The next one is natural disaster. I rate the country 0 out of 4. It's because Toyota has developed the strategies to adapt to natural disaster, drawing from their experiences in Japan and applying similar principles globally, including China. Toyota has implemented multi-sourcing strategies to avoid the over-reliance on a single suppliers. And this ensures the one supplier is affected by a disaster, alternative sources are available. While Toyota just-in-time system is efficient, they have adjusted to keep slightly higher inventories of critical components to mitigate the impact of the supply chain disruptions. They also use digital twin technology to create a virtual representations of the supply chain. They allow them to simulate various scenarios and develop effective responses to the potential disruptions. The next one is foreign exchange. I rate the country 2 out of 3. It's because Toyota operations in China are significantly influenced by the foreign exchange fluctuations. Exchange rate movements have a substantial impact on the Toyota profits. The fluctuation in the yen against the other currencies can affect the cost of importing parts and exporting vehicles. To mitigate the risk, Toyota employs various hedging strategies, including the forward foreign exchange contracts and options. These financial instruments help the offset to affect the currency appreciation and depreciation. The very last one is the competitive. I rate the country 2 out of 2. It's because Toyota faces highly competitive in China, which is the world's largest automotive market. Toyota holds significant market share in China, ranking 3rd in 2023 with the sales of approximately 1.7 million units. However, the market share has been under the pressure due to the rapid growth of the local competitors. The shift toward electric vehicles in China has been a challenge for Toyota. While the company has been a leader in hybrid technology, it has been slower to adopt a fully electric vehicles compared to local manufacturers. Toyota is now ramping up the electric vehicles offerings to catch up. Despite these efforts, Toyota continues to face intense competition from both international and domestic brands. The company's ability to adapt to the rapidly changing market dynamics, especially in the electric vehicle sector, it will be crucial for the future success in China.
And then moving on to our next part, the opportunity risk matrix, we can see that Russia has slightly more opportunities than China, but the amount of risk it has is far greater as well. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Mohammed Basma, and today I'll be talking about cultural environment. I'm going to be talking about social factors. The important aspects are changing demographics. The middle class in Russia has been expanding, but current financial strains could be changing this trend. Toyota has shifted its product lineup, emphasizing both entry-level and high-end vehicles. Cultural differences in management. Toyota applies some of its lean management and Kaizen continuous improvement concepts to Russia, but it must adjust to the country's cooperation conventions, which could prefer more formal decision-making procedures, and hierarchical structures. That's a tough word. Consumer behaviors and preferences, brand perceptions. Strong reputation for dependability, quality, and durability have helped Toyota win over Russian consumers who value long-lasting all-weather cars. As you well know, Russia is, snow in the winter, not so hot in the summer and stuff like that, so it has to be well built. Cultural expectations. Russians place a high importance on robustness and refuelness in automobiles, especially considering the severe weather, like we said, that exists in many areas of the nation. Toyota's 4x4 vehicles, such as the Land Cruiser, the SUVs, and Toyota 4Runners, are especially well liked because of their capability in tough winter conditions and on uneven terrain. Adaptation of models. Toyota designs its cars specifically for the Russian market, including characteristics like stronger heaters and features that withstand the harsh winters. As we can see, SUVs, sedans is way higher than hybrid and electric throughout the years. Regulatory and business culture, local production. Toyota's 2007 St. Petersburg facility manufactures a number of important models, including the Camry and RAV4, demonstrating the necessity of localizing manufacture in order to evade important duties and adhere to legal requirements. Partnerships. Toyota is able to more fully penetrate the market while adapting to local businesses, standards, and laws, thanks to its collaboration with local suppliers and dealerships.
My name is Ignacio, and I'll be talking about the political environment of Russia. So to begin, I want to talk about Vladimir Putin and Russia's government. It is officially a federal democratic republic. This began after the collapse of the Soviet Union and the new Russian constitution in 1993. Afterwards, Vladimir Putin came into power in 1999, and he became the prime minister. Shortly after that, he became the president. The president has 6-year terms, but has amended the constitution to extend his presidency until 2024 currently, and it will likely continue until 2030 since something that they have been doing. It's something that he has been doing since 1999 to maintain power. Putin's political party and secret police have suppressed any opposition ever since he became president. He has been rigging the elections and ensuring that no opposition comes into any sort of significant power against him. He operates as a totalitarian dictator with full control over government, media output, and military. There is no type of checks and balances in his government since he is the only one that, well, the power is just generally centered around him. So, talking about the Russia's political freedom score, Russia has a freedom score of 13 out of 100, compared to the United States, for example, that has a 83 out of 100. The country we live in currently, it is mostly free. Russia is just considered not free. This has to do mostly with the fact that the people don't really have any say in politics. The votes don't actually really matter when the current president, Vladimir Putin, rigs the elections and essentially takes out any democratic idea in the country when there is really no power to the people, and the power is really all just concentrated around him. So, something that is going on in Russia is the war on Ukraine. Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February of 2022. Ever since then, the country has received international sanctions that began back in 2014 with the annexation of Crimea, a, uh, a small piece of land that was part of Ukraine that Russia took control of to gain access to the seaport that it possessed. Sanctions increased massively following the Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022. The sanctions were imposed on individuals and economic entities, including companies in manufacturing, energy sector, banks, and financial institutions. These sanctions were mostly put in place to damage the country and damage individuals in power, like Vladimir Putin and people around him, people around his government that control a lot of the things that are going on in Russia, kind of relating to the war. Trade restrictions aimed at hurting the Russian economy included restriction on crude oil exports. This is a big deal because Europe heavily relies on Russia's oil and natural gas. Big part of the war on Ukraine is that Europe has very little leverage against Russia because they are heavily dependent on their natural gas to heat up their homes, to run their machines, and stuff like that. The Russian legal system is generally classified as a civil law system, meaning that it relies on codes and statutes. This means that they don't really take on president law, as in the judges um, make rulings based on the written law and not stuff that they have ruled on before. This is based on Russian tradition, since the collapse of the Soviet Union. There has been a rule of man that dominates the legal system as opposed to rule of law. This is this has to do with the idea that came from the Soviet era, where the judicial system wasn't its own branch because it was heavily influenced by whoever was in power in the Russian government. The Russian government rigs any court rulings in their favor, ensures that their opposition get sentenced to jail, and give them long sentences. It's really just a lot of manipulation of the law by the government. Judges are heavily influenced by whoever is in place. And there is a low trust from the public about perception on the legal system due to corruption because of this. People know that generally the judges and the court systems are not going to be fair because of the heavy corruption of the country. Um, Finishing up with the corruption perception index. This kind of goes with what I was talking about. Russia has a 26 out of 100 in the corruption perception index, indicating that they have it is perceived as a very corrupt country. We see that after 2020, it has been continuously going down. Part of that is because of the Russian invasion on Ukraine. Um, it also just has to do a lot with the steps that Vladimir Putin has been taking recent in the last couple of years in the country, and how they have banned a lot of information, a lot of media outlets. There's less and less opportunity for people to express themselves or have freedoms since Putin has been becoming more and more, or turning Russia into more and more of a totalitarian state. Thank you.
Now we will be talking about the economic environment of Russia. So, let's start with the real GDP. As of 2023, purchasing power parity for the Russian Federation stands at 3.8 trillion, according to World Economics. This figure reflects the overall economic output of the country, adjusted for differences in price levels across the country. Now let's look at the real GDP growth rate. In 2023, the growth rate for the Russian economy is reported at 3.6%, according to World Bank. This positive growth indicates a recovery phase for the economy, signaling resilience in the face of challenges. Now we turn to Russia's agricultural products. This includes wheat, barley, maize, rye, oats, potatoes, millet, buckwheat, rice, and pulses that I sourced from FAO in 2021. Now, in terms of industries, the Russian economy has a complete range of mining and extractive industries, producing essential resources such as coal, oil, gas, and chemicals. This sector is crucial for the country's economic stability and international trade. Finally, we are going to be looking at the employment sector that I sourced from World Bank in 2022. According to this, the employment distribution in Russia is as follows: services 68%, industry 27%, and agriculture 6%. Now we're going to be talking about the income distribution. In 2021, Russia's GINI index was recorded at 35.1%, showing a decrease from 36.9% in 2014. According to the World Bank, this decline indicates a slight improvement in income distribution across the country. Next, we'll be looking at income inequality. In 2019, the top 10% earners of Russia captured an astounding 46% of the national income. In contrast to the bottom 50%, received less than half of that amount. This contrast highlights the significant disparity in wealth distribution within the nation. Now we're going to be looking at the change over time. The share of income held by the top 10% has doubled from 1988 to 2019, reflecting a troubling trend of increasing concentration of wealth among richest segments of the population. Turning to wealth distribution in 2022, over 61 million Russians age 20 and above had wealth under $10,000. This statistic represents approximately 55% of the total adult population in Russia, indicating that a significant portion of the population is struggling with low income and wealth. Now we're going to be talking about the income per capita. According to Macrotrends in 2022, Russia's GNI per capita was $12,750, which represents a 8.42% increase from the previous year, 2021. This growth in GNI per capita indicates a positive trend in the country's economic performance, reflecting an overall improvement in the standard of living for its citizens. Now we're going to be taking a look at the average annual salary in Russia. As of June 2023 from TimeChamp, the average annual salary is approximately 1,240,000 RUB, which is equivalent to about $14,771 according to TimeChamp. This figure provides insight into the income levels of the Russian workforce and highlights the economic conditions faced by the population. Now we're going to be talking about inflation, and we'll be going over it in years. Starting in 1993, inflation peaked at 874.25%. This extreme rate was a direct reflection of the economic turmoil that followed the collapse of the Soviet Union, causing widespread hardship. In 1994, inflation remained extremely high at 307.72% as the country struggled to transition to a market economy. The challenges of this period were evident in the continued rise of prices. 1995, inflation was recorded at 197.41%, indicating that while there was a slight decline, the economic situation was still precarious for many citizens. Let's see, 1998 rates decreased slightly, but were still high at 85.75%. However, by 2001, Russia experienced a significant decline in inflation to 14.76%, making a crucial period of stabilization. This shift indicated improvements in the economy and better management of monetary policies. Now, from 2002 to 2010, inflation rates fluctuated between 6 to 12%. This period showed ongoing economic recovery as the country adjusted to its new market-oriented economy. In 2021, where inflation was approximately at 8.44%, this suggests that while economy has stabilized over the years, there are still economic pressures and fluctuations in customer prices affecting the Russian population.
Hi, my name is Tracy, and I will be going more in depth into Russia's economic environment. Starting off with poverty, Russia's poverty rate has been decreasing steadily over the last couple of years. In 2020, the poverty rate was actually 12.1% per World Bank. Poverty rate actually increases slightly at the beginning of each year during the first quarter, which is between January through March. And the main reason for this occurring is due to seasonal factors, which include Russia being exposed to extremely cold temperatures, with the temperatures reaching as low as -30 degrees at some points. And it also has an extremely snowy environment per World Bank. And the graph on the right simply shows how many people live in poverty. And as you can see, it is decreasing from 2015 through 2023. So for unemployment of the working force labor, only 2.4% were unemployed in July of 2024, which is approximately 1.9 million people who are unemployed per Trading Economics. And this is a significant decrease compared to 2020 when the employment rate was actually at 5.6%. And unemployment rate is at an all-time record low and has been steadily decreasing over the years per Trading Economics. And this just has to do with the fact that Russia is currently facing significant labor shortages for workers due to the ongoing war in Ukraine. Likewise, Russia also has really poor unemployment benefits. So it is basically encouraging people to have a stable job so that they don't have to deal with the bad unemployment benefits. For life expectancy and population growth, life expectancy has been on decline due to high rates of cardiovascular disease, which is caused by excess alcohol abuse per PBR. This is actually pretty normalized due to the fact that Russians are really heavy drinkers. Russia's life expectancy in 2021 was actually 69.4 years per Data Commons versus USA, which was at 76.1. However, both have been on the decline since 2019. And women actually have a longer life expectancy, which is about a difference of 10 years. So women live to the age of about 77, whereas men only reach about the age of 67. And population growth has actually increased to 0.073 in 2022 compared to 2021 at 0.039 per Data Commons. And the graph on the right shows the life expectancy comparison between both the USA and Russia over the years. For education, Russia had a 99.69% literacy rate in 2021, which is really high. This is per global data. And the USA had a 79% literacy rate in 2021 per National Literacy Institute. And this is a 20% difference from USA and Russia. So Russia seems to have a high percentage of school enrollments as well, with 102% of children receiving primary education per World Bank group. And the graph on the right simply shows Russia's high literacy rate, and it visually displays that it has been over 99% since 2014, and it hasn't really decreased. It's just been pretty steady. For distribution of workforce, the service industry is the main industry of employment with 67.77%, followed by industry with 26.75% per Statista. And this is relevant to us because Toyota utilizes both a service and industry workforce, and therefore a majority of the population would be willing to work for Toyota, and we wouldn't really have much of a difficulty in getting employees to work for us. And on the right, we just have an image of the three main workforce industries in Russia, and it is per Statista. So for infrastructure challenges, roads are actually considered to be underdeveloped and cannot withstand large cargoes per Nation's Encyclopedia. Similarly, Russia lacks road maintenance and paved roads, which makes it very difficult to get around. And for the main form of transportation is done via railroads because they are more accessible to the cities. This also applies to commercial and cargo transportation for the fact that it is more convenient and accessible, but also because railroads are the only way that a heavy load can get from one place to another, given that the roads are not well developed.
And right now, we're going to talk about ecological environment. Sustainability initiatives, manufacturing practices. Toyota has established eco-friendly methods at its St. Petersburg factory, decreasing water usage and energy consumption to achieve global sustainability standards. This reduces the expenses while enhancing its reputation for corporate social responsibility, the CSR in Russia. Circular economy. Toyota's international waste reduction and car recycling initiatives are applicable in Russia. Toyota, for instance, encourages longer product life with its after-sales services, which concentrate on the availability of replacement parts and auto maintenance. Environmental regulations. Russia standards. Toyota must abide by the increasingly stringent emissions laws as well as Russia's other environmental criteria. Russia is under pressure to lower its carbon emissions since it signed the Paris Agreement. Electric and hybrid vehicles. Toyota has started releasing hybrid models in an effort to be ahead of anticipated future demand and regulatory changes. Russia has been hesitant to adopt electric cars, EVs, because of lackluster charging infrastructure. Climate impact, cold weather and vehicle design. Russia's environment has a significant impact on customer needs for steady automobiles when it comes to cold weather and vehicle design. Toyota has to make sure that its vehicle function effectively in extremely low temperatures, which has an impact on engineering, marketing, and vehicle design. Adaptation to climate change. Toyota's long-term strategy depends on its environmental initiatives, such making cars that are more fuel efficient. Even if Russia continues to have significant investment in gas and oil, this is in line with global trends towards a decrease in the reliance on fossil fuels.
Hi everyone, my name is Huey, and today I'll be covering Russia's technological environment. So first, we have Russia's bandwidth infrastructure. So currently, Russia has widespread 4G network coverage. This started back in 2012 when they were able to get full coverage, And in 2017, they were able to upgrade to 4G LTE for widespread coverage. During the 2018 World Cup soccer tournament, Russia began experimenting and testing 5G internet around zones around the stadium where the tournament was taking place. Ever since the World Cup, Russia has began deploying 5G internet coverage in more urban areas like St. Petersburg and Yekaterinburg. Some challenges of the bandwidth structure in Russia is the poor frequency band. So Russia actually has two different types of frequency bands, 3.5 gigahertz and 4.4 through 4.9 gigahertz. Unfortunately for the Russian population, the military in Russia uses the stronger 3.5 gigahertz, leaving the much weaker 4.4 through 4.9 gigahertz to Russia cell phone providers. Another challenge is, since Russia is such a big country, it's a big investment to try and get 5G coverage throughout the entire country. There is 5G coverage, it's just not throughout the entire country, like I mentioned before, in urban areas. If they were to invest into 5G coverage countrywide, it would be a very, very big investment for them. Next up is the population internet access. Next up is the percent internet access for Russia. So basically what percentage of Russia has access to the internet. So according to Statista, Russia has the 6th largest online population in the world. And in January of this year, there was an estimated 130.4 million internet users in Russia, which is approximately 90% of the total population. In Russia, their biggest internet provider is Rostelecom, and you can compare that to the United States Spectrum Internet, or Xfinity, if you will. Back in 2020, roughly 81% of the Russian population had access to the internet, so around a 9% difference since 2020. And it really shows the improvement in Russia's digital connectivity. So as of January 2024, more than 97% of Russia's population own either a smartphone or a mobile phone. Mobile internet speeds have been improving over the years, and as of 2023, Russia averaged around 24 megabits per second, and this is actually double of what they had in 2015, which was around 13 megabits per second. Although this is great improvement in Russia, if you were to compare it to other countries such as the United States or South Korea, they still are well behind them. United States back in 2023 had around 56.16 megabits per second, while in South Korea, one of the strongest nations in terms of their internet speed, they average around 88 megabits per second. Alright, for some streaming commons in Russia, they offer domestically Ivy, RooTube, and Oko. So Ivy is basically a Netflix of Russia, where you're able to access TV series, shows, and movies through a subscription, just like Netflix in the United States. RooTube is Russia's YouTube, where content creators or people are able to upload videos onto their website for others to watch. Oko is just another Netflix-like website, and it is Ivy's competitor. So for some global streaming commons, the Russian population have access to YouTube, Netflix, and Twitch. As I already mentioned before, YouTube is the content creator website and where people upload videos for others to watch. And Netflix is a subscription-based website where you can watch movies and TV shows. Twitch is a live streaming website where people are able to live stream themselves playing video games or maybe just walking around in real life. For the tech education of Russia, students are introduced to the basics of computer literacy at ages 7 through 9, which is around 2nd and 3rd grade. and actually introduced in 2002. Intel Teach is a program that is still being used in today's classrooms, and it basically integrates technology into teachers' teaching methods. And in Moscow, there's actually an electronics school called Moscow Electronics School, or MES. It was established back in 2016. It's integrated in all of the schools in Moscow. It has around 3 million users, which includes students themselves and teachers. It basically provides the users with electronic journals and virtual labs. And the goal of the electronic school is to create a high-tech education system that is more accessible to students. As you see in the top right picture, students are using tablets as a way of education. Moving on to the Russian Silicon Valley. So Silicon Valley, as a quick background, is basically the global center for high technology and innovation. There's a lot of startup companies here, such as Apple. There's a lot of startup companies and high-tech companies such as Apple, Google, and many more. So in Russia, they have their own version called the Skolkovo Innovation Center, and it sits right outside Moscow, and it was projected to be the Silicon Valley of Russia. So basically, it was kickstarted by President Dmitry Medvedev during his presidency from 2008 to 2012. Basically, his vision for the Innovation Center was to increase entrepreneurship and technological development. But unfortunately, there were a lot of challenges that slowed down the process. So let's get into the first one, which is government corruption. So after his presidency, Putin came back into office back in 2012, and he didn't really share the same technological views like Medvedev. And he didn't fund it as much as Medvedev would have. So Skolkovo just kind of sat there, slowly kind of rotting away in a sense. So another big thing about Skolkovo Innovation Center was that there's a big scandal concerning 2 top executives of the Innovation Center. And basically, these executives, they misused around $45 million US, which were funded by the Russian government. Another big challenge is obviously Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And this invasion not only thwarted the fundings that were going towards the Innovation Center, but it also severed the relationship between any foreign investors into this Innovation Center. So a foreign investor is MIT. They're really interested in the center, but ever since the invasion, it's really the relationship has been very rocky, to say the least. And lastly, the Innovation Center never really had like a household name company that came out from it. To be honest, if you just look up the Skolkovo Innovation Center, and you look up any companies in that center, you're more than likely not going to be able to recognize them. If you look at Silicon Valley, I bet you more than 90% of the population in the world know what Google or Apple is, but like not many people can name one company that came out of the Skolkovo Innovation Center. Moving on, we have the tech industry of Russia. So there's a lot of benefits to being in the tech industry of Russia, such as being able to expand to the CIS market. So the CIS market includes Russia, Ukraine, Uzbekistan, to name a few. And if you're placing your company inside Russia, you're more than likely to be able to expand your company to those countries, to those neighboring countries at least. Another great thing is that during the time of Medvedev, there's a lot of government funding and support. So this is more so like if Putin were out of office and a different president were to rise up, then you were to get a lot of government funding, just like how Medvedev funded a lot of money into the Innovation Center. So yeah, that'll be very great for any startup companies in Russia. Third, Russia has a great workforce. If you're a tech company, or even like a science-related company, it's very good. Russia's workforce is very good. Their education is not primarily, but they're very focused on STEM, and they've produced a lot of notable engineers, scientists, as such. So yeah, they have a great workforce. Unfortunately, there are a lot of negatives to the tech industry as well, such as the ongoing war. Obviously, you're not going to get as much money as you think you would, because all the funding is going towards the war, which relates into the next two, which is the unstable Russian economy and limited funding. So let's talk about the limited funding. A lot of foreign investors have withdrew from Russia, such as Shell, Apple, BMW, Starbucks, name a few. And due to this withdrawal, Russia has limited their fundings to all these companies within their country, which is quite unfortunate. So the innovative culture. Is Russia innovative? Let's find out. So there are two innovative projects that Russia has come out with, as I have said before. The Skolkovo Innovation Center, which leads the country in innovation, and MES, Moscow Electronics School. So they are trying to be innovative and develop, but as I have mentioned before, they have too many problems and issues that they have to deal with, which has dwindled their development, which is very unfortunate. Their unstable economy, the invasion of Ukraine, and government corruption are just some of the bigger challenges that Russia faces. Yeah. And thank you so much for listening to our presentation.